Hello guys, here is Mr. Merlos again, greeting you all. Welcome to Intermediate English 1. And this video is with the purpose of explaining a little bit about the topic that we're going to be checking this week, specifically from the point of view of the book, because there are some things or some concepts that we're going to see a little different to the content that I showed you in the lesson, specifically in the name of some of the things. In the use of the second conditional, we use it right to talk about impossible or very unlikely situation. This explanation of impossible or very unlikely situation is the one that I don't like too much because I prefer to call this as imaginary situations. Why? Because situations that are used in second conditional normally are contrary to what happens in the present, right? Or what is the reality of the speaker. So that's why, right, I prefer to call it imaginary situations rather than impossible or very unlikely situations. The examples: if I went climbing in the mountains, I take a first aid kit. So when you say I take a first aid kit, what you mean is I would take a first aid kit. So what it means that I don't have, right? I don't have the first aid kit, so right, I won't be right. I won't right go climbing in the mountains. So there is a situation that is different in the present that doesn't let me to have the condition that I'm thinking here. So if you notice, in these forms we also use the clauses, right? In the same way as in the first conditional. We have an if clause that is separated with a comma, and we have the main clause that ends the complex sentence. But in the tenses, that's the difference because in the first conditional we use simple present or present simple in the if clause and future with will in the main clause. What do we do in the second conditional? In the if clause we use something that we call the subjunctive mood, right? That is a form of the verb that is equal to the simple past. So we cannot say we use the simple past because this is not simple past in the translation. But the form of the verb is exactly the same as the simple past. And in the main clause, instead of using will, we use the modal would. What we use here is the contraction of she would, right? She. Instead of saying she would buy, we say she'd buy. So we put either clause first or and not change in the meaning, right? However, if we put the main clause first, we don't use a comma between the two clauses. So this happens in the same way as we did with the first clause. We can move the order of the clauses and the meaning of the sentence is the same. So we have to be careful about how we use the clauses, right? Remember? Because we can have the if clause in positive form, we can have it in negative form, we can have it right for complementing a question because the if clause cannot be a question, but we can have a main clause that is the complement as a question. So the whole sentence becomes a question. So the if clause can be positive and the main clause can be positive. Or we can have an if clause negative and the main clause negative. Or we can have a if clause in positive form and the main clause in the question form. But also we can have different forms, right? For example, that the if clause is positive and the main clause is negative, or the if clause negative and the main clause positive. So all of that depends on what we think, right? So basically, the book tried to tell us that if we use the first conditional and the second conditional, the only difference is about the if the possibility is real or is very unlikely. I would prefer to say that in the first conditional we talk about situations that are real. Yes, because if something happens, the other thing will happen. But these situations are imaginary in second conditional because you say that if something had, right, if something were happened or happened, something else would happen. So it's something that is imaginary, that is different to the reality in the present. I will explain a little bit more about that in the second video, so try to check about the examples and the homework that you're going to do this week. Okay, thank you very much for listening to the explanation. Goodbye.